ask for a moment of silence for the sick and suffering addicts inside and outside these walls, and for the children who have no say-so in the matter. And I'd like to say a short prayer. So bow your heads. Thank you, Jesus. I just want to ask you to be with me as I'm telling this story. I want to thank you for all the blessings that you bestowed upon me. I want to thank you for my family, for unity, for the people that you put in my life, and for the doors that you're opening. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. I got a new lease on life, but after what happened to me, I really didn't want to. I didn't want to go on. I was broken as broken could get. So this is my story. Oh, man. All right. Let me start by saying that my addiction affected everybody that I knew, and I'm sure as many of you can relate, my addiction also impacted the community where my family and I live. I want to share my story with you in hopes that it can change just one of your lives. Please don't focus on the magnitude of the event that occurred, but my actions that led to it and the aftermath of destruction that followed. Danny and I were together for 20 years. He had 3 kids and I had 3 kids, and then we had one together. He gave me a good life and loved me more than life itself. We had awesome times and we had bad times, and we both served time in prison in the 90s. After being released from prison, Danny never used again. However, I relapsed after about 8 or 10 clean years when he became very sick. Danny fully supported me in my sobriety, but I failed him and myself when he needed me the most. He almost died and I couldn't cope. The stress of losing him was almost too much to handle, so I began to use again. He had gastric bypass surgery, and after that he began to recover from his morbid obesity but suffered from COPD, sleep apnea, just to name a few. By the time things began to look up, I was in way too deep. I remember him saying, "I miss you, Brenda," and I would respond by saying, "What are you talking about? I'm right here." Of course, I knew what he meant. I wasn't the same person on drugs. He was trying to tell me, but in my addiction, I refused to listen. I was in denial, I lied, I covered things up, and I tried to justify what I was doing. I couldn't force the truth. Could not face the truth of what I was doing. Danny begged me to quit, to just please stop messing with people that I dealt with, and would even offer to buy me the drugs I craved, going against everything that he now believed in. I would often agree to try to stop, but I couldn't. This man who loved me, who knew me inside and out, who shared my life with me, was not enough for me to stop. We all know how that is. You really do. You love him, but the drug just takes over. It was unfair of me to put him through this. He was in recovery himself through all of this, and I can only imagine what everyday life must have been like for him. He would tell me that if I didn't stop what I was doing, we were going to get busted. He said, "I'm too sick to go back to prison." I responded by trying to minimize any consequences of my using by telling him that I would take full responsibility for everything. If the police were watching, they'd know he wasn't involved in any way. In my way of thinking, Danny wouldn't suffer for what I was doing. Do we ever listen to reason in this disease of addiction? Of course not, especially if it involves our getting high. We don't want nothing to come in between that. How dare somebody tell me what I need to do? We just don't want to hear that. Why didn't I listen to him? He genuinely loved me and truly wanted the best for me. I selfishly endangered him and our son by using and with the type of people I was interacting with. I recall thinking that my marriage was crumbling, my life was falling apart in my addiction. I rationalized that if I could get it together enough to stop selling dope, then I could work on not using. But with my drug use spiraling out of control, it would soon destroy everything I cherished. It still sends chills to the bone to look back at the chaos and destruction that I caused. On October 17, 2012, I remember Clyde, who was 18 years old and a senior in high school. With me wrapped up in my drug use, our relationship wasn't very good. It was very shaky. That day, like usual, he went straight to his room. Danny called and said he'd be home in a few minutes, and I was in the computer room, and Danny joined me when he arrived. I can think of a million things I would have told him if I'd only known what the next few minutes would bring. There was a knock on the back door of the police enter our home. One of the officers' guns misfires. The shots rang out through the house. There was 3 shots, and the officers are yelling, "Shots fired, we're being fired upon." Mistakenly, they assume someone in the house is shooting at them. As one of the officers turned to the left, there stands Danny in front of me and Clyde in the hall. They opened fire on Danny. First bullet ricocheted off his finger and punctured the wall an inch above my head. I really thought they were flash grenades. The bullet must have spun him around, or maybe he turned to protect me and Clyde, but the second shot entered through his back and into his lung. I won't go into the details and tell you how wrong the police were and how they killed an innocent man that didn't even use drugs. That's not the point of my testimony. I will tell you that no weapons, drugs, or money was found in the house, only a set of scales. I'll also be honest and say the reason nothing was found in the house is because it happened to be when I was trying to quit selling. What I want each of you to understand is the domino effect of my addiction, what it had on so many different people. Our use affects so many innocent people, and our addiction is so powerful we never realize the destruction until it's too late. Realistically, I didn't pull the trigger of the gun that killed Danny that day, but at first I sure blamed myself. I indirectly caused his death by using drugs and having drug activity in our home. I wanted to die. I didn't want to be without him. I've heard that sometimes God sacrifices a saved soul to save a soul, and Danny's death saved my life, and that's a powerful statement. I pray that sharing my testimony with others will save a life, or at least open your eyes. I refuse to let Danny's death be in vain. Glory be to God. I wasn't arrested on that day. They only found the scales and they had no reason to hold me, they said. So I assumed that later on they sent the scales to the lab and they tested positive for residue. I was at my oldest son's house when they came to execute the warrant for that about 2 months later. I won't even go into the fact that my son got arrested that day because of me. I was arrested December 4, 2012 for possession of a quarter gram of meth, and I no longer cared what they done to me. My life seemed over. I'm sure Clyde blamed me for Danny's death and wanted nothing to do with me at the time, but I have learned that the fruit of the Spirit is produced not in sunshine and happy days, but during trial and tribulations, rain and dark clouds. I was at rock bottom, and I had no choice but to look up. January 2013, I gave my life to God, and He saved me. I could write a book on the confirmations I received from God. I wish I would have kept the log. I ended up being sentenced to 4 years in Clayton County from a judge guaranteeing me from a past sentence that she'd give me 10 years if she ever saw me again. They also dropped the charges on my son, and it would be 2.5 years before I got the charges resolved in Paulding County where Danny was killed. I thank God that because of all this, I'm now in recovery. I wrote it about the victim's impact, about all the other people that I hurt in my life. And I put the definition of a victim is the one harmed by or made to suffer from an act, circumstance, agency, or condition. That means due to my drug use, everybody that I knew and many that I didn't know became a victim as well as my community. Can you begin to imagine how this impacted our son? We already didn't have a good relationship. Clyde was very sheltered and didn't even realize that I was using like I was. He didn't realize I was using drugs. Clyde is amazing. Through all this, he graduated high school after saying he never would. He grieves over the loss of Danny daily. He believes he wasn't the son that he should have been, and that has taken a hard knock on his self-esteem, but maybe in a way this motivates him too. By the grace of God, Clyde and I now have a positive relationship. Maybe Danny talked to God about that because he always just wanted me and Clyde to get along. Clyde is completely supportive and active in my recovery today. Our relationship has a solid foundation, and I thank God daily for that. I can only guess the impact of Danny's death had on my other 3 kids. That could be another short story in itself. I went to jail 2 months after he died, and I know they were still in shock. They all loved and respected him very much. Danny also had 3 sons from his first wife, and I helped to raise these boys as my own. And for 20 years, it's a long time. But I had no choice but to accept their feelings. His oldest son turned to drugs, his middle son blames me and has only hate for me, and the youngest son turned his back on me about 6 months after Danny died. And unfortunately, the relationship between Clyde and his brothers has been shattered as well. The community as a whole was impacted as well. To me, Danny was a pillar in this community. People respected and loved him. The community was shocked by his death. I would imagine the circumstances of his death has led to distrust and fear of the police. I know it scares Clyde. He's scared to get pulled over for he might get shot. You know what I mean? It's had a bad effect on a lot of people. A friend of ours had a heart attack on the night that Danny died. Thankfully, he recovered. The magnitude of this event touched everyone in the community in some way. They have lost a great part of the sense of security provided by law enforcement. If a civil lawsuit occurs, then any monetary award will be funded by the taxpayers' money. I've basically been locked up since the shooting. This is when I wrote this when I was an RSAT. But as far as the police department is concerned, I'm unaware of all the details of the shooting. It had to cause chaos and confusion as well as distrust within the department. I believe several people were dismissed. Maybe the one who fired the fatal shot felt justified, but surely has feelings of guilt after finding out that Danny didn't use drugs or have a weapon. At the very least, I hope this event has motivated the department to provide better gun safety training and better training of serving warrants in residences. Please realize that the domino effect of this incident could go on for years and generations, because it could have an effect on one of my kids, and it could affect their kids, and then it goes on. I personally have come down the long, hard road of my life. Life isn't always easy, and it has taken me where I am today. I refuse to sit back and stay in the past. My recovery means too much to me. I have to make every moment count. Clyde and I now have a very positive and healthy relationship that we may have missed out for if not for this tragedy. I have learned forgiveness. Forgiving the officer responsible and the law enforcement agency in general is beneficial to me beyond words. Forgiveness is about yourself. Without forgiveness, I don't think I could achieve sobriety with such a heavy burden to carry. But it took me a long time to realize that I can say I forgive you, but forgiveness is about me letting go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Today, my recovery is for me. We as addicts usually base our recovery on someone else or for someone else. That just isn't enough. You can't say, hey, I'm not going to use for you, or I'm not going to use for you. I got to do it for me. Danny is and always will be a part of me, and all of this fuels my determination for recovery. I'd like to think that heaven has a window and that Danny is looking down on me. I hope he's proud of me and what I'm trying to accomplish. He will forever be sown into the fabric of my soul. God has done so much for me in my life. It's taken these trials and tribulations for me to see his hand in all of this. I see God's glory in all of it. I'm not trying to preach, but it's just truly amazing. We cannot do this on our own. We have a power greater than ourselves, and mine is Jesus Christ. The Bible teaches us in Romans 8:28 that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose for them. Never did I think I could or would say that positive things have come from him being killed, but there has been. Even in the worst of situations, if you look for the good, you can find it. But you have to open up your eyes literally and figuratively. It's there, I promise. And often in this disease of addiction, we don't realize how much we're hurting ourselves, much less the impact that we have on our loved ones and even strangers. Please listen to my story and don't think that it couldn't happen to you, because it can. I've been blessed with a new lease on life, one I didn't even want at first. Now I know that I have a purpose in real life, and I'm going to make the best of it. I know God's got a plan for me, and hope y'all got something out of it.